Is the UFO phenomenon just physics and technology? Or is it something deeper? People who've actually had these experiences rarely talk about the propulsion systems. They talk about transformation, consciousness, seeing the universe differently, sometimes overnight. So today we're asking a different question. Not, are we alone? But what the phenomenon might be asking of us, spiritually.
UFO Cafe
Oh, right.
and it was this time it was actually a person who has something to do with UFOs. The last month it was like a therapy session, um, and I think he mentioned
Yeah.
a month in 2027 when something was going to be revealed.
I asked ChatGPT about that, and it was like, I don't see anything related to 2027 that relates to disclosure. Are you talking about the Spielberg movie?
Yeah, right.
I'm like, okay.
Oh, it'll be on Netflix by then.
Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it will.
That's right. Yeah, 6 months, right? Yeah. Sometimes less.
It's interesting. I've been exploring this whole idea in my book about how the U.S. government has done disinformation. What they don't do is they don't generally put out false information. What they do is they allow somebody who has something to disclose the real information. Then they come in and support them with more real information, and then they discredit them as being authentic, and it causes people to not know what's true then, and so they dismiss the reality of what was said because they can't prove it. And the government has come out and one particular guy ended up committing suicide because they ruined his career. It was so.
But they set him up.
They set him up. So he was working at Sandia in New Mexico, and he knew that there was something going on at the base nearby, Kirkland Air Force Base, which is the largest underground UFO complex. And anyway, and this is 1970s, late 70s, he starts coming out with, I've seen this stuff going on, and here's what I've found, and he starts reporting on it. And the government gets somebody who's working in their department at Kirkland to call him and say, I have secret information I want to give to you. I'm a whistleblower, but I don't want to tell you anything about it at this point. And he goes, oh, well, what is it? And it matches what he's already said. And he goes, okay, that guy must be real. He's giving me real information. They wrote a book about it. It was called Project Beta. And so then they started to slowly discredit him, and they would feed information to the press that what he's talking about isn't real. So then they end up discrediting him. He starts to try to prove himself. He gets fired from his job at Sandia. Yeah. And ultimately commits suicide because even his wife left over the breakdown that he had. And so in researching that, one of the guys who actually was involved in doing that and feeding him that information became a whistleblower. And he talks about that whole topic of how the government used it. Yeah.
And the government set him up. Wow.
Yeah. And apparently that was their new tactic that they were using, rather than trying to just say, oh, it's false information, like Project Blue Book was doing.
Right.
What they were doing was they would come out and say, oh, that's nonsense. It's not really true. But what the real program was you've got to get in bed with them first, and the real information can come out. But then, so that cycle really was quite, and that's still going on today. And in fact, there's a couple of people that are talking about a few of the whistleblowers are actually doing exactly that. Is they're coming out, they're giving some real information, and then they will get discredited, and then the whole thing keeps going round and round. Well, that's the way the government has been doing that, not just on UFOs, but on other things as well.
Yeah.
Well, isn't Trump's executive order to release the information going to change a lot of that?
Well, you gotta look at the fact that there are factions within these organizations. There are 7 intelligence organizations, all operating, as we know from 9/11. None of them talking to each other, and
Siloed.
because of that, there's rogue groups within those organizations where a particular general will decide we can't tell anybody about this because of or whatever, and so they don't want that information released, and so there's fights within the organizations themselves. So, and this is not just on UFO stuff, it's on intelligence in general. There's a problem with it. The big agency for many years from the 50s on through the 60s and into early 70s was naval intelligence. They gathered all this information together, and then it broke up after that. That's what my father was involved with, was in the 50s and 60s up until he retired in the early 70s. So it's fascinating. I think it belongs in the category of what is reality.
Oh, why don't we talk about that?
That's a good topic. Thank you, chat.
Yes. What is reality?
Chat's over here going, oh, thank you. You're going to use my topic now.
Yeah, really. Is it listening in?
It's interesting. The one where we were goofing off with asking Claude questions got a lot of traction. People love it. Yeah, we would ask questions and it would.
I think people certainly use Chat and Claude and whoever else, whatever else, to replace human interaction.
Oh, I know it. I know people. Their best friend is AI.
Is an AI.
And that just is creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they're dating Claude. It's like, what?
Yes. Will we meet in person ever?
This is kind of what happened when cell phones started becoming popular with the younger generation. Is a lot of them didn't have interreactive relations with others, their friends. It was over the phone that they did it. Yeah. And then it became over Twitter, and then it became, it keeps changing the delivery mechanisms.
Yeah, text is the ultimate.
Yeah. So why wouldn't they, when this thing comes out and sounds just like a friend or whatever,
and usually
you have a relationship with it?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a relationship with it. It's very cantankerous, though. It doesn't like me giving it, nasty comments like, you idiot. One of the things that I have that I'd like to talk about is the quote that's attributed to the Dalai Lama. And I think it's an interesting one. It says, man sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. Yeah. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present. He lives as if he is never going to die. And then he dies never having lived.
Oh my, yes.
Does that sound familiar?
That's a rosy proposition.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it has some realistic context to it.
It does. And I think that's the whole thing about, early in your, when you're out of college, you're chasing your career, and then you're chasing family, and then you're chasing enough money to keep all that going. And then you hit 50 and you go, what the hell? Why am I been doing all this?
Yeah.
Don't you think, though, that generations younger than us are starting to focus on taking better care of their bodies?
Yeah, I think they are to a certain extent.
So that's got to be moving at least in that direction with our physical state, which counteracts the beginning of that quote from the Dalai Lama. If people will do it, although there's still plenty of people that don't. There's still plenty of people that are using drugs, and there are plenty of people that are abusing their bodies with food and other things. So,
Right.
I mean, it's
Well,
certainly been repaired or
you
corrected.
gotta look at the fact that the government deregulation of products and things having all of these chemicals in them is going against that, because you try to get health foods, like health foods in some of the stores are not healthy because they're still sprayed.
Yeah.
They say, oh, it's farm, to table.
Yeah.
Right, but it was sprayed while it was growing with all of these chemicals to keep
That's
it
right.
from getting attacked by the insects, or it's sprayed with fertilizers that are natural, and it doesn't help. It's like the cigarette companies moved from creating something that was highly addictive to the food industry, where they've used the same
yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
And so now you addict people to,
Because
white
their
bread.
bottom line is corporate profits.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're going to do anything they can get away with.
And
Right.
once the law changed to where, corporations became people, that became nearly impossible for people to do anything about. And, so there are these obstacles that are out there that are trying to push against that.
Right.
Jay and I were talking the other day about being in Italy and how the food there, you could eat as much of that food as you want, and it never bothered us. And they don't use the wheat that is typical in the U.S. and in
Yeah.
parts of Europe. They're using Eichhorn, which is a 2,000-year-old original wheat form. It's very short, so they made hybrids out of that in order for the machines to be able to do the work. And that changed the whole consistency of the nutrient value in it. So I used Eichhorn wheat for making bread and cookies and everything else, and it's
How do you
amazing.
spell that?
K.
Is it CHORN?
It might be, yeah.
Okay. I've not heard of that. I don't know what that is.
I actually found it at Whole Foods, and I found it
you
in the
can
health
buy it in
food
the
store, and
States.
then it ends up being in Kroger's, next to the white flour.
Yeah, if they see that it's selling and it's part of the whole food organic idea, so they're going to make money off it.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Whereas it's been around for a long time. Wasn't it as far as we're talking about food, wasn't it in the 60s in the States when they started messing with and hybriding, if that's a word, with wheat to make it taller, to make it last longer, to make it thicker so that more could be processed?
Yeah, that my recollection is it started in the mid-50s.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
And companies like Monsanto and others who have been in that chemical business, or DuPont or any of those,
Yeah.
that they were doing that. And originally it probably was a good intention. Hey, we can produce more, feed more people, do what we need to do to create a good supply.
Right.
And then it starts to morph into, how can we get more and sell more? And the moment that sell more comes into the equation, it changes, quote, the chemistry of things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course it does.
Seems like.
I've heard some very deviant stories about things Monsanto has done to increase their profitability.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not the only one. I mean, DuPont has done that since it was, look at what they just found about, the famous chocolate company, Lindt. Have you heard of
What
them?
they find out?
Their chocolate is made in Switzerland. Wrong. It's actually made in the United States by a company we all know.
Hershey.
Number two, it contains an extraordinary amount of lead.
Oh,
because it's the cheapest kind of chocolate you can get. This is what I just heard on the news. And
isn't Lindt considered the
premium?
High end, premium, though you could buy it in the store, it's considered premium.
Yeah, and I don't know. They have a whole variety of different chocolate bars, and maybe it's only one particular one. I didn't know the details on it,
Oh,
but
wow.
there's an example right there of let's produce it where we don't have to ship it, and let's add it into, and it's cheap for this chocolate. We'll get better pricing, and it's all about somewhere in this game, the ego has gotten control and won't release.
Yeah, and the government, the administration's behind that too, because they want
Sure.
foreign companies to produce in the United States.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they also politics is made up of people who are like that, who are used to be heads of corporations and
Yes.
heads of big families. The Sackler family. Look at what they
Oh,
did to the
gee.
country with heroin that they distributed gangbusters into doctors' offices and gave them cuts of the deals and stuff. And then they get sued and they bankrupt the company
Right.
and they walk away paying $1 billion out of the 60 billion that they made, or
Right.
whatever that number was.
Right.
So, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole
It,
because it gets really depressing.
well, it seems that the Dalai Lama was mostly talking about the U.S. and maybe
Well, I think Europe
maybe
as
a few
well.
cities throughout the world, but it's mostly the U.S. that has these crazy leniency laws about food products and productivity and the quality of the food because Europe has a lot more laws than the States does.
What about Asia though? I mean, do they
Yeah.
really do that? Do they care?
Good point.
Yeah,
You
I
mean like
think
China?
the other thing is that you find in the administrations is the people that are put in charge in the USDA and places like that or the one that's really terrible is the regulation of the oil companies. The people that are sitting in those offices in Washington are former executives of
Yeah.
the oil companies.
Yeah.
They're not going to go regulate anything,
Right.
and they're going to try hard to keep it from getting to the Senate and Congress.
Well, don't
So
you think that depends on who the administration is?
I'm sure to a
I mean,
large
don't you think
extent.
that there's a
To a
possibility
degree.
that a different administration with a different perspective would have exactly the opposite intention
Well,
and they would be heavy on regulations?
here's the other side of that, though. When Obama was in and he reappointed people that Trump had put into office, those various offices, they didn't replace all of the people underneath who were part of the hire out of the oil companies that came in there and said to the executive, "This is what we should do, and here's our report." So it's almost like you have to clean house in order to get people
You
in there.
do.
And
Oh,
then
yeah.
the other thing is there's a lot of people that are unwilling to go into those organizations and do what needs to be done. It really requires a lot of, I mean, there are thousands of laws on the books that are never enforced. There's thousands of regulations that are never enforced, and you just keep producing more. It gets kind of cranky at one point.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
That's one way to look at it.
To to enforce those laws is the biggest thing because you have to.
I think children today, or the kids today, are more aware of a lot of this than probably my generation was. We kind of just went through, here's our schooling. We never questioned even the schooling. A lot of what we were learning was stuff that the companies wanted us to learn.
Yes.
I tell the story about homeopathy, which is this alternative form of natural healing, and that in the early 1900s, the AMA was formed by the American Pharmaceutical Association, and its stated goal was to eradicate homeopathy as a form of healing
Really?
because it cut into the profits of chemicals that are used for medications.
There's no profit for the pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
Well, not enough.
And they tried to do this in the 1700s, the chemists in Europe, when homeopathy was founded. So anyway, what they did is the AMA and the American Pharmaceutical Association basically fed all of the textbook manufacturers the information and said, we'll buy half the books or whatever if you eliminate homeopathy. Second thing they did is they gave out scholarships, and they said, as long as you don't go into homeopathy as a career, we'll give the tuition to you for medical school. So that's how the system gets corrupted. And what was the reason why they did that? It all went back to chemists can't make money. Pharmacies can't make money if you can. And here was the big thing about it, because if you're a homeopath, you can't charge a patient who doesn't have the money to pay for it. You can't charge them. You have to give it to them. So if somebody comes in and they only have $5 in their pocket, and you're going to help them heal, you can't be the obstacle to the healing. So you need to give them the remedy.
Yeah.
So all of the homeopaths just give the remedy as part of the treatment. You may pay for the visit $25 or whatever. And
Right.
in most cases in homeopathy, the scale has to slide depending upon what somebody can pay.
Oh.
And that didn't work for the AMA either.
Can't become
I don't know. How am I
a
supposed to
rich
support
doctor.
this lifestyle if I'm
Yeah.
giving stuff away?
And back in the 1700s, when Hahnemann, who found this idea, which was actually went all the way back to the Greeks, similia similibus, which was Greek for similar heals similar. Well, back in the 1700s, when he discovered this, the chemists in Bavaria kicked him out because he was hurting the chemist's business. They went to the local government and got him kicked out. He went to Germany somewhere when it was under king rule or prince rule or something. Anyway, the story, as I get it, is that he healed the prince's daughter. And because of that, he was allowed to practice and to teach homeopathy there. And he continued to do that. He was a medical doctor, and he got into doing this because his daughter died because they were using bloodletting back then.
Yeah, sure.
And it killed more than it healed.
Sure it did.
Obviously. So he was so distraught, he left the medical world and started writing textbooks about things that healed that weren't chemicals. And that started him looking into homeopathy. So when you get this bigger picture of how these organizations manage things, which is another topic, a good topic about how we manage our interactions with people, how companies manage our interactions with us, how all of this interrelates to what's going on, and all relates back to what I would think Carl Jung would probably say is this dark shadow of the ego.
Yeah. You know, John said a word that I was thinking about when I was reading the topics that we were going to talk about today. And that word is perception. And that so much of what the Dalai Lama was talking about is our perception of what a successful life looks like.
That's what
And
drives us.
especially in the States and major cities throughout the world, that perception is wealthy. And if you're not wealthy, then you are on a lower tick of success. And, you know, there's plenty of people in the world that aren't even close to wealthy and have a successful, happy life.
Yes.
And a whole community that has a successful, happy life. You look at the people in these so-called blue zones, these aren't wealthy people in the way you usually use that word, which equates to money. They're wealthy in lifestyle and their happiness and the community itself and the town itself, and these people live longer lives than anybody else, and they're not using big pharma help in doing that. And their perspective on what life looks like is totally different. And I think that's the big thing. What is your perspective? What is your perception on what life should look like that either slows you down in happiness or increases your happiness?
I think we can go back to Darwin for some of this, because he was pointing to the fact that there's only two purposes for human beings.
Okay.
One is to survive, and the other is to procreate. And survival means you have to get better than the other person in order to survive whatever's going on. So the average soldier dies in combat, the generals don't, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, procreation is, I need to keep my clan together so we can get bigger and bigger and survive as a clan. And in the US, I don't see it surviving as a clan anymore, because it's gotten too desperate and separated and so divided. And that's a typical beginning of an empire in collapse. This is what happened to Rome, Hungary, you name it, Turkey. So it's big and dystopian in the sense of, how do you take care of all of that kind of stuff? And it points to something that all three of us have been doing for most of our lives, is why not stop looking out there and start looking in here for what's going on? What's this true self? Who am I really? These are the questions that are more important, because all that other stuff's going to go away when you die, but who you are isn't.
Yeah.
And I'll stop mouthing off here.
So back in the 1980s, I had a period of time where I worked for an organization called End World Hunger. It came out of the Hunger Project, which was a Werner Erhard initiative.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and the organization that I worked for, I was their national program director. What we did was we built food gardens in public housing projects.
Right. Oh, cool.
And I was hired to lead that and to direct that. And we did garden projects all over the country, from LA to DC, a lot down here in Miami where I live now, and in many other major cities. And it was an incredible experience for me. It was kind of my precursor to moving into ministry. And it really taught me some things, because one thing that I assumed was that most of the people that lived in public housing were not very bright and lived failed lives. And that wasn't the case at all, because each of those communities is like a microcosm. It exists within itself. And not that the people don't go out into the world, of course they do, but they, in their living environment, they have a system. And it's led by women. It's very, very much in that direction, maternal, and people are respected who are leaders in those communities, and they have incredible authority within those circles. And what I went in there and did was I learned from those people about how all that worked, and was able to see that there are all kinds of ways to be successful in life. It doesn't all come with big numbers in your bank account. That I would say that the leaders in those communities were largely successful and revered by community members.
Yeah.
In that environment.
Yeah, exactly. So there are different, obviously, categories of success and where you're successful. And it's like so many writers that were gifted writers or gifted artists, after they die, their things become valuable, but during the time they could barely feed themselves.
Right.
But yet, quite a few of them felt successful because they were doing what they wanted to do, not necessarily what everybody else wanted them to do.
I'm not sure Van Gogh felt successful.
I'm not sure he felt anything except crazy.
Well,
No,
You
well,
know
he
how
must
he
have-
got
he
that?
must have felt the blade on his ear.
Huh?
He must have felt the blade on his ear.
You know,
Yes.
the thing about Van Gogh was he mixed his own paints. And one of the primary ingredients that he used was mercury.
Yeah.
And mercury causes insanity.
Yep.
And you can see it in his pictures.
Yeah. I read something about, because he was always touching, he had paint on his fingers and he was always doing this, or
Yeah.
Really?
moving things with a wet finger that eventually touched his face or his mouth, and
Yeah.
that he absorbed the mercury.
Well, there you go. That explains everything.
Back in the days of kings and queens, one of the ways they treated arthritis was with mercury, because it would stop the pain in their
Of course
joints.
it would, because you would die.
But in the meantime, you get King Henry VIII, who goes absolutely wonkers
Yep.
because they were giving him so much mercury,
Yeah.
and it turns you into, a mass killer. We used to have mercury lead batteries in this country. And
Really?
what did they do with those? They threw them into trash
Threw
dump,
in the trash.
and they
Mhm.
decayed away, and then got
You got into
composted.
put into the dirt and the water system eventually. And yeah. Great.
So,
Not to mention your teeth.
oh yeah, let's have
The
some fluoride.
amalgam had mercury in it.
Ah,
Right.
gee.
And the fluoride. We're just having a happy time here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just all over the place, aren't we?
No wonder it's tough to.
People are going to look at this and go, "I'm not watching that again. I'm
No
depressed."
wonder it's tough to be happy, and all you're doing is spending your young life doing things that are eventually unhealthy.
So
Yeah.
the answer to the Dalai Lama's quote is mercury.
Mercury.
I need some. No, I don't need some. I'm already there.
Yeah, really.
I still have a little mercury in some of my teeth.
When I was a kid, I have no idea where we got mercury, but we would take it and put it on the head of a quarter and take our thumb and rub it in,
Oh,
and it would absorb it.
yeah.
It was the most bizarre thing. And that it probably explains a lot about me.
They used to have things in science class in schools in the 60s and
Oh, yeah.
70s.
I don't remember in class. I just
where
remember
you
playing with
played
it.
with mercury because they
Yeah.
were showing
Well,
you
the
why a
thermometers had
thermometer works.
mercury in them.
Of course they do.
As kids, you'd break them open and play with it
Yeah.
because it rolled
That's
around.
probably where we got it.
Yeah, rolled around and
Yeah. You'd play with it.
and
Sure.
poisoned you.
Yeah. Perhaps the
Okay,
greatest
thanks.
mystery isn't what flying through our skies is all about. Perhaps it's the awareness that's looking up in the first place. What does that mean?
Say it again.
You read it again.
Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't what's flying through our skies, UFOs and airplanes and things.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's the awareness that's looking up in the first place.
That's the mystery that we're looking up.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mystery is what produces or what causes the awareness to look up. It's one of those, we look into the sky at night in the vastness of the sky and see all of those stars and we wonder. And
Yes.
what causes the wonder? There's something within us that's, doing that.
Because so much of it is unexplainable.
Yeah.
And it makes us feel so small.
Or it can make you feel very isolated.
Yeah, that too. I can see that.
I remember when I was a kid in Minnesota, I was like 8 years old or whatever, and we had rented a farm, and I would go out back of the fields, and there was a big flat rock out in the back, and I would lay there at night looking up at the sky. Me and the skunks used to love that to sit on during the sun during the day. So they'd have it during the day and I'd have it at night. So I would look up at the sky and I'd go, God, wouldn't it be amazing to just be able to travel instantly to all of these different places and see what they're like?
Yeah.
And now I'm finding out that there are visitors who've been here for millions of years that could probably take me there. So I would like
Yeah.
a ticket, please, to ride.
Well, you've made your request. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, hi. What are you doing here?
Just a second. So, when do we leave? Well, I think that also the idea of when you look up in the sky that you're seeing an expansion, and that what is your perspective of that? Am I part of something huge and a power, or am I some minuscule version of it, or
Yeah.
a lesser version? And that has to also do with where your spirituality is. Do you think things are happening to you or through you?
Well,
Well,
if you're
I
into
would-
self-referral, obviously you're going to think that your life is big and important and meaningful and all of that. But when you get subjective and look at the universe, it really kind of changes that perspective so dramatically that you would have an entirely different take on it, and maybe even call life on this planet insignificant in the universe. But to each of us, our life's important. At least it is for me.
Yeah.
I used to think when I was laying out there, what created all of this? Something that can create a universe 14 billion years in distance from itself, so to speak. How did that happen? What is that? I want to know that. And I don't get it out of the books that I read at Sunday school.
No, sir,
No.
you don't.
No.
No, they fit all that into like one chapter in one book.
And I didn't learn about it in quantum physics either.
Oh, really?
No, you don't learn about that kind of thing in physics. Physics is about matter.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
theorists are constantly extrapolating from what little bit we do know into a grand sense of what it's all about. I mean, look how far it's gone with the idea that a light would be a wave or a particle, depending on how you're looking at it.
Yeah.
I mean, they've extrapolated that out, and maybe it's true. Maybe everything they say about our creative tendencies and our ability to perceive and influence our environment is all real. I don't know.
Or maybe it's not.
Or maybe it's not.
Maybe it's all up in here, and everything that we see, hear, feel, taste, and touch, all of that stuff that's coming in, which is not a lot, is all getting moved around and changed according to whatever our beliefs and our biochemistry is at that particular moment. And we end up with this verbalization and thought process. And that's the game that's going on. And is there something within us that is greater than just this mind and body, this conversation we've had before? Because there's got to be something there that if 3,000 years of teachings out of every tradition says not only are there UFOs, but that there is something within us that's more than just what we can sense from the outer world. And that's the question that all great traditions have been doing since the beginning, is the kingdom of heaven is within you, as I learned when I was a kid. And I can turn that statement around and say, yeah, the truth of who I am is inside. And how do I find that?
Well, you're not talking about inside your body. You're talking about inside your consciousness.
Yeah, your conscious.
Right.
Yeah.
So making that distinction, the inside part is where we work from. That's all there is that consciousness.
And consciousness has a variety of meanings. It means this thing that's aware inside of our heads. It means this universe is all consciousness. It has different meanings. And again, this is our language that has no specific meaning to a specific word. And is consciousness awareness? Because if awareness goes away, is there consciousness?
Well, I think there had to be
Right.
consciousness
Yes.
before there was awareness.
Yes.
Then what is consciousness?
Because awareness has to
It's
do.
the ability to be aware.
Yeah, there you go.
Ability now is another one of those words that translates from the physicality of things.
Well, you don't have to. I think we've discussed this before. You don't have to have a physicality to have consciousness.
I think
No,
that's
what-
pretty clear, or there couldn't be any physicality.
Yeah, but you see, your language betrays that when you say have it. Have it is what has it?
Or
What has
what
consciousness,
is it that we
Well,
have?
a better way to say it would be, I am consciousness.
right? And again, I ask the question, what is I am?
Whatever this is all coming from and going to. You said something about more, and you can't look at more without a physical aspect to it. I mean, I guess you can, but that's where our mind goes.
Yeah.
How can we be more aware?
Right.
Well, you talked
I don't
about
think it's a quantitative thing.
you talk about light and this idea it's a wave or it's a particle, and depending upon how we look at it, that's all mathematics. That's
Yeah.
mathematical modeling that is theoretical. And until somebody can actually get to a point to where they can prove that's true, we play with that all the time in the world of physics, these ideas, these theories and theorems and things. And the idea that I can measure light as it changes into a particle, that's when it becomes more reality. That's the split theory, where we can split things.
Well, that's what science wants. It wants to be able to measure it.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you
And
can't measure it, doesn't mean it's not so.
yes,
Just because you
exactly.
can't measure consciousness doesn't mean we aren't.
Thank you.
Before we had the ability to do that, we couldn't measure gravity or oxygen, which you cannot see.
Right.
And yet it was there and it was doing whatever it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So, science, God love it, is always catching up.
Yeah, well, it's the difference between, from my science background, is it's all about matter. And a lot of what we're talking about is not about matter. It's where does matter come from? What is matter? I'll give that to the physicists and the, engineers to figure all that out. But what is consciousness and who am I? And those kinds of questions are not to do with matter.
Well, Holmes would say that matter is the result of consciousness.
Yeah, I was going to say,
That's
yeah.
the philosophy of idealism. And I understand. It's like they say, this is all mentation. It's all mental stuff that's going on. To some extent, maybe so. There's all of that going on in your head that we talked about before, but there is a reality sitting in front of me. That reality may be an illusion simply because I can't see it all. I can't sense all of the different parts of it. And I'm sure it'd scare the hell out of me if I did. But I think we create our own reality, is what Ernest was always saying. And so
Absolutely.
Yes.
healing is nothing more than changing your reality in your
My
mind.
first spiritual teacher taught that right out front.
Yeah.
That we each have our own reality, and that's why things look different to different people. That's why their experience, even though they had the same physical experience, they were in the same place as someone else, the result was not the same.
Yeah, and that talks about the old thing about standing on the shore when you're a tribe from the 1600s seeing a ship coming, and they can't see the ship because they have no frame of reference in their mind for it.
Oh, yeah.
Same is true with two people. I used to stand outside of our fusion energy project with people working with me, and we would stand out there, and 3/4 of us could see a sphere above us, and the others couldn't. They would just go, "Oh, this is a joke, right? What are you talking about?"
What do you mean a
that silver
sphere?
object up there. Yeah.
And what was it you were seeing?
So when we would do an experiment, oftentimes we'd walk out of the building, so we weren't exposed to certain things.
Yeah.
And you could look up and you could see a silver orb that's been sitting there hovering.
Watching.
Now,
Okay.
we were located near the Top Gun school. So as they would take off, the jets would take off, they'd come overhead of where we were.
Uh-huh.
And you could see they would get to a certain point and they would rapidly turn away from what were they seeing? Because they go straight out. They go out over the ocean, then they maneuver and do whatever they're going to do. But that orb was sitting there, and at a certain time, I would turn around and I'd say, "Oops, oh, it's gone."
Just like that.
Gone. But every single time we did the experiment, which was about every 3 or 4 months, there would be one or even two of those silver orbs up here.
And they
Really?
were they observing you, do you believe?
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I think it's true that almost all of them have been observing nuclear
Yeah.
facilities. I think part of that is because nuclear has a way of interrupting their propulsion systems. I think that could be an issue that they need to monitor.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, and I remember the Trinity bomb when they set it off and did the test. 2 days later, they found a rancher found a crashed UFO. This is 1947.
Oh.
So this is prior to Roswell. And what they found was this craft. And oh, by the way, several researchers, we've talked about it before, Gary Nolan and others, they went down there recently in the last 3 years and actually found material and brought it back, and were analyzing it. And although they were withholding the actual way in which they talked about it, they said it's not something that we understand today. So that gives you a clue to it.
Wow.
But
Still 80 years later.
But there again, a UFO is probably monitoring the bomb going off. It was monitoring. It's been, 35 sightings above Los Alamos during that whole period of time. They saw them all the time. Physicists would go out and go, "Oh, what's that?"
You know, I wonder if many have been seen in Colorado above the whatever that mountain called, where all the ICBMs are. If they're floating around above there, because there's a lot of missiles somewhere in those mountains.
Yeah, boy, I just splashed myself. But
That's interesting. I wonder if they have a technology that could prevent us from nuking ourselves off the planet.
well, let me tell you about a story
nice,
that
but-
relates to that directly.
Oh, okay.
Back, this was in the 70s. I
Mhm.
believe it was in the 70s.
Your volume went down, Larry. I don't know why.
How's that?
There you go.
Better?
Yeah.
In the 70s, they were planning on doing a test. It was either a test or an actual alert, and all of the missiles in the silos spun up, meaning they were ready to launch at any moment. This is in Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, and Colorado. And what took place is orbs and UFOs were spotted above all these missile silos. All of them went dark. All of them spun down. Nobody had control of them. All the power was shut off.
Wow.
And that turned the White House into complete chaos.
I'll bet.
Sure.
Now nobody knew what was going on. However, there were people that said, look, we've noticed that UFOs around the world are at these nuclear sites, wherever it's nuclear weapons, especially. And that's a well-documented case. And the same thing happened in Europe. There was a time when the Russians decided to spin up their missiles because they thought they were being attacked. It was a computer error. Their missiles automatically spun down. So
Automatically. Or in other words, by some other source.
And let's call it an entity that didn't want that to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's like we've got some kind of angels watching over us.
Yeah.
Now,
we don't annihilate ourselves.
The caveat is that we do know that we've tested nuclear weapons since then.
Yeah.
Tests do have, various anomalies related to them, and have since the very first one was
Aren't
tested.
most of them done underground now?
Yeah,
Or
most
in
of them
water.
are. We've had a couple of tests that have been above.
Okay.
And they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out the blast. There's a point at which when the blast happens, there's a suction, a vacuum that happens inside of that column that you see going up, and it's sucking up at 10 or 100,000 times normal pressures. It's just sucking everything into it. So houses, buildings, trains, water, millions of gallons of water when they tested them go up into that area. There's a point to where they wanted to figure out what the air blast would be like if they set it off way high, like a mile high. What would it do? So they did
So
that
you're,
one
you're
test.
saying that the way a normal bomb would explode and send debris outward, that a nuclear blast actually sucks everything into it?
Yeah, so it's initially what happens is you get a fire that spreads rapidly. You
Okay.
get a shock wave first. The shock wave kills a whole bunch of people right away.
Right.
Fire emanates out rapidly at about 100 million degrees. So everything in its path pretty much is going to get destroyed. In the meantime, the same thing that's happening at the same time that's happening, there's this vacuum that sucks up into this mushroom cloud.
Yeah.
You get that mushroom effect. So it's sucking up all of the other stuff that's around it. And back in the day when they tested this in the 50s, and they had all of the Navy ships nearby, they had terrible time trying to stabilize themselves, and they were not inside the blast range, they were at the perimeter, and yet they could feel the water being sucked out from underneath them going towards that column. And I can imagine what that must have felt like.
Oh,
being
that
on
had to be
ship.
scary as can be.
Yeah. So it is true that there is potentially something looking over at us going, look, if you want to destroy yourselves, let's not do it this way because you might do the same thing to us. So
Fascinating.
yeah, all right. Well, I think we covered all the topics that are fit to be covered.
Well, except the ones that we had planned on.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been one of these where we've actually gotten through the idea we started with.
We did get a couple of the things.
But we do have a good time.
Yeah. We have a good time, and who cares if anybody else does?
They'll either want to watch it or they won't, and God bless them either way.
I like the new. I came up with a new buzzword now, though.